Detective Superintendent Pierre Niemans, an investigator well known in Paris, is sent to the small rural university town of Guernsey in the French Alps to investigate a brutal murder. The victim's body is found bound in the fetal position and suspended high on a cliff face, his eyes removed and his hands cut off. Niemans learns that the victim was a professor and the university's librarian, Remy Collois, and he seeks out a local ophthalmologist for an explanation for the removal of the eyes. Dr. Cherniz, once on the university staff, explains that the school's isolation led to inbreeding amongst the professors, with increasingly serious genetic disorders. Recently the trend has reversed, with the local village children becoming ill and the college babies remaining healthy. Cherniz hints that the killer is leaving Niemans clues to their motive by removing the body parts that are unique to each individual, the eyes and hands. Niemans questions the dean and examines the librarian's apartment, where he finds images of athletic supermen juxtaposed with texts on genetic deformities. The dean's assistant, and son, Hubert translates the title of Collois' PhD thesis. Coincidentally, Detective Inspector Max Kerkerian is in the nearby town of Sarzac investigating the desecration of the grave of Judith Hérault, a girl who died in 1982, and the theft of her photos from the local primary school. The girl was killed in a horrific highway accident, witnessed by her mother, who was so traumatized she took a vow of darkness in a nunnery. The mother tells Kerkerian that when Judith was 10 she fell ill, and they went to get help in Guernsey where she was born. She claims they were then attacked by demons and, when they fled, her daughter was killed in a road accident. She says the pictures were stolen to erase her daughter from history, and that her face is a threat to the demons who have returned to complete their mission. She tells him it all began in Guernsey. Niemans questions Fanny Ferreira, a glaciologist and student, who is immediately suspected because of her climbing ability. Despite her contempt for the school and its arrogant professors, she works for the university to steer away frequent avalanches and is incensed when Niemans implies she might withhold evidence to protect the school. She tells him that anyone with good equipment could have hoisted the body up the cliff, and brushes off his obvious attraction. Soon after, the pathologist reports that it was acid rain in Collois' eye sockets, which has not fallen in the area since the 70s. Niemans enlists Fanny to take him up the glacier to get ice samples to compare with the acid rain in Collois' eyes. On a hunch, Niemans follows a glacial melt tunnel to a cave that contains a second body, frozen into the ice. Kerkerian traces a car from the accident to Philip Sardes in Guernsey and meets Niemans while attempting to break into Sardes' apartment. Sardes is the body on the ice, a doctor that worked in the maternity ward at the university hospital. They find Judith's stolen photograph as well as evidence that Sardes was breeding and training fighting dogs, and then they find the dogs, and Niemans the supercop is momentarily paralyzed by fear, until Kerkerian coaxes him through. Sardes was also mutilated, and his eyes were replaced with glass prosthetics, like you would find at an eye doctor's, remarks the pathologist, leading Niemans to race back to Cherniz's practice. The doctor is already dead, and they almost catch the killer, who fights off Niemans and races away after deliberately emptying Niemans' gun into the wall but not hitting him. Kerkerian gives chase but the killer escapes. Returning to the scene, where the killer has written "I will trace the source of the crimson rivers" in Cherniz's own blood above his body, they learn the prints on Niemans' gun belonged to Judith Hérault. Kerkerian goes back to search the grave in Sarzac, which is empty except for a picture, while Niemans goes to Fanny's home. Niemans tells her that although he sees her as physically capable of committing the crimes, he doesn't believe her to be guilty. When he returns to the university, the local police captain tells him that Collois' thesis is full of Nazi-style eugenics, suggesting perfection can be achieved by breeding athletically gifted and intellectually gifted children together. Kerkerian returns with the photo which Niemans recognizes as Fanny and, on the way to her house, they narrowly avoid being run off the road by the dean's son as they piece together the story. Due to the poor bloodlines and genetic mutations in the faculty's inbred offspring, the doctors at the hospital had been swapping healthy village children with university children. Sardes, they deduce, must have swapped Fanny for Judith, and Collois arranged the matches in the college's breeding program. Once at Fanny's house, they find the missing hands and eyes of the victims in her basement, but Fanny is now gone and so are her grenades. Niemans gives the order to evacuate the university while he and Kerkerian travel up the mountain to find Fanny. The duo confronts Fanny only to be set upon by Judith, who is her identical twin. Judith tells Fanny to kill Niemans. She refuses and instead turns the gun on her sister. At the same time, Kerkerian fires at Judith but hits Fanny in the shoulder and the gunshots trigger an avalanche. Judith is swept away and the rest are buried in the snow until a rescue team arrives with search dogs. Fanny is airlifted to the hospital while Kerkerian asks Niemans to explain his fear of dogs.